Welcome to Talkin' Shit, the podcast where we get real about the unfiltered truths women face in the quest for perfection. I'm Jana, your host, a dietitian and fellow woman navigating the pressure to have it all together, the perfect body, career, relationships, and making it all look effortless. Who set that standard anyway? Here, we're calling out the diet fads, hustle culture, beauty standards, and everything else that keeps us feeling stuck. But we're not just venting, we're diving into how to break free and rewrite the rules on your terms. So grab a coffee or a glass of wine and let's talk some shit. Together, we'll uncover how to live a life that's unapologetically yours. This is Talkin' Shit. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Talkin' Shit podcast. There seems to be a theme lately, if you've been tuning into the weekly podcast, of having dietitians on. And today is no different. Today, I have dietitian Amy Lawson. She is joining us, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with her because she's coming from very unique and different angles, which I always love to hear and always love to share with you all. So, Amy, thank you so much for your time today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenna, for having me. I'm psyched to be here. I think you and I have a lot in common in terms of our philosophies. So I'm a registered dietitian. I own my private practice called Thrive Nutrition RDN, and I help a lot of busy women, families, building healthy habits without the extremes, without the guilt or the just diet culture that can be kind of ingrained in us. My focus is on real food, real facts, and real strategies that fit your real life. And I also have a few other things that I do. I develop recipes as well that are on my website. And I have a YouTube channel where I share recipes, but also work really hard to dispel nutrition myths that are out there. It's an uphill battle every day.
It really is. And we can start there, Amy, because I feel like even as a dietitian, I'm like, what the heck? Like this is so confusing. And so there's so much fear and anxiety around food. Like where do we even begin to navigate this?
It can be, I really feel for a lot of clients that are like, well, I read this on Instagram or this supplement was advertised to me on social media. And there was one recently that really, it's not too often that I'm really shocked, but there was a supplement that really shocked me. It promised to, do all the things, balance hormones and help you with weight loss. And just the ingredients were honestly atrocious. And so, but they're targeting women who are really looking for help. And so that's where they need to find us instead of just some influencer or some company that's not vetted and who knows what's in their product.
Yeah. How did you land on your philosophy when it comes to nutrition as a mom yourself? You have 3 boys. Yeah. Like being busy is a real thing. Like, so how did you land on your philosophy and just how you support women and men? I'm assuming.
Yeah. I have sort of two subsets of clients. I have a lot of women who are coming for help with just managing their life and weight loss or specific health goals. And then that bleeds into families too. And I also serve athletes as well. So I've got a couple Ironman athletes, some power lifters. So I sort of love those 2 sectors because those are personally passions of mine in both areas. And one of my philosophies is food freedom. And I think going through schooling as a dietitian, that was definitely not a theme that came up. But once I started my private practice and started talking with people and learning about their real lives, it became such a theme. And food freedom is removing the guilt around food and allowing ourselves to eat all these wonderful whole foods, having those treats here and there, but feeling good about it and removing the negativity. And I think that's so important because the negativity and the fear around food is really real. And social media, I find, just ramps that up to 1,000 degrees.
100%. I love that because it was not kind of taught to us in our schooling. And then the more I was connecting with women in particular in the one-on-one space, there was so much anxiety, shame, guilt, confusion, frustration when it came to food that was really blocking their ability to stay consistent with keeping up, like taking care of themselves and eating really nourishing food. And that's really my goal with individuals is it's not good or bad, it's very neutral, but what works best for you. So how, so this consistency thing is a big theme though. Like, do you find that if someone labels food as good or bad, they struggle more with consistency or what
Yeah.
do you really want to reframe that?
Yeah, that goes back to diet culture. And I think if we think back to the 90s or even, growing up, 90s to 2000s, that was a lot of the diet culture. We had those um, Snackwell cookies that are low fat, and you get like three little cookies in a package, and it was all sort of like restriction and really calorie counting focused. But taking that to consistency, what we find is the people who eat healthy most of the time, who incorporate their movement, their workouts most of the time are the ones who are successful instead of the ones who, do that yo-yoing, start and be really restrictive because really restrictive patterns we cannot maintain. I mean, really anyone. And then we sort of get tired of it, we get fed up, and then we go back to our old ways and it becomes that yo-yo pattern. So consistency is really everything. And it doesn't mean being perfect. It means planning for failure, planning for real life.
And it's kind of comical to me because I remember like I was a chronic dieter and I very much so struggle with my weight. It's one of the reasons why I became a dietitian. And I'm like thinking back, like, and I was so ingrained into diet culture that it
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
make sense any other way. And it was like, no, you have to restrict all the things. You have to like this is the next best thing, even though like 6 weeks earlier it was this thing. Like it was this constant chaos versus like
And
this.
it felt crummy, right?
Yeah, it felt crummy, but then in some way, like I felt like I was making progress because I was changing diets, which
Okay.
was
Yep.
so like again, thinking back, it makes sense. But when I was in it, and also when a lot of women are, it's like this makes sense. This is the only way. And so how do you help someone or how do you support someone in kind of seeing this new way, if you will?
Yeah. It's kind of like when we're in that phase, we kind of think, well, this shouldn't feel good. The food shouldn't taste good. It should feel restrictive because I'm on this diet. And really, the food freedom concept is like food, even healthy food, good for you, nourishing food should be delicious. It should be enjoyable. And food's so much more, it's community, it's all these things. It's part of our culture. So getting through that is step one. And then being consistent. Like we have to plan for failure, especially, working with the moms with busy families. You're going to go on vacation. Okay, you're on this health journey. We have to plan for real life. So what does that mean on vacation? Are you going to be able to get some movement in? Are you going to be able to get your protein and fiber in while you're on vacation? Are you going to stick to it consistently most of the time? Maybe it's a work trip. Maybe it's, life is going to throw things at you. I always tell my clients the path to wellness is not this beautiful straight line that we'd like it to be. It's going to be a winding road. And so we have to plan for those crazy curves that are going to come our way no matter what.
Yeah. I like that so much because one of the things, especially in my like group program that I work with women on, is really creating this opportunity where they set their goals based on a day that went to shit. Like, like nothing,
Perfect.
nothing,
Yes.
nothing went right. Like,
I
what
love it.
what do you feel like you still have the capacity for? Because probably on vacation, like it's not realistic. Like, and goes into like goal setting, right? Like a lot of the goals that are set
Yeah.
are like not realistic of like, oh, I'm never going to eat carbs again. I'm never going to have sugar again. Like, okay, that is just not realistic. I'm going to guess for like 99% of the human population or like for moms,
For sure.
yeah, like saying like, oh, I'm going to cook a different meal than my family while I'm on this diet. Like that also, again, is usually not realistic or sustainable.
That sounds terrible. We're already trying to cook at least, 5 meals a week. And then to add to that, it's just like our bandwidth, our capacity to do that would be, that's where we would get burned out. And, if we do something like that, and then we're over it within 2 weeks and then consistency is gone, and our motivation drops, all those things.
Yeah. Okay. So you have on your YouTube channel, which we'll definitely link in the show notes, you have this idea
Awesome.
of like counting calories is not enough. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's not the full picture. I'll give you one of my favorite client examples. So, counting calories is super diet culture. We think of MyFitnessPal, and you've got that equation at the top. Here's your calories for the day. Here's how many you've used. Okay, you went for, a walk for 30 minutes. You burn this, you have this much left. It doesn't tell the full picture and it can be so misleading. So, my example, a woman came to me, she had been strictly following that equation in her calorie deficit for 6 solid months and did not lose 1 pound, nothing. And so you can imagine she was beyond frustrated and she thought something's wrong with me. Like, what the heck? And so we dove into what she was eating, and it was, like quick convenience foods. Granted, she was in her calorie deficit, but there was, you know, minimal protein, hardly any fiber, not much in terms of like nourishment for her body. And so we just totally flipped the script. We focused on protein, we focused on fiber. And honestly, she was in less of a calorie deficit with all these delicious whole foods, but she started losing weight. And so it was like her body was just craving, those antioxidants from fruits and veggies, and she was missing that. And that's the missing piece that really, when you're just focused on that calorie number, people just totally just ignore.
Yeah, our body needs so many nutrients in order to do, and I always say in order to do what we want it to do, because I always envision like our
Yes.
body just getting like really sassy with us of like, screw you, you're not giving me the food that I need, so I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I literally just envision the body saying that. And then when it's like,
Love it.
when we finally do give it what it needs, it's like, all right, you're
I
listening
feel good.
now, we can do what you want to do.
That is exactly her. Honestly, she was like, "Oh my gosh, my skin is like brighter." I'm trying to think of a few other things she said. And she did start incorporating, she like felt so much better gut health wise. She felt less bloated that she started incorporating some exercise. So it really snowballed into this whole like full body thing for her instead of just, oh my gosh, I have to, she would check that app all the time, her MyFitnessPal. Like, I have to stay within this number. I have to stay within this number. And instead it was freeing instead of restrictive.
Yeah. There's another dietitian, Amanda Liptic. She says food stress is stress. And
Oh
that
yeah.
always kind of resonates with me. And I share it with so many of my clients because when we're looking to get the body to particularly lose weight, we want to reduce so all this, as many stressors as we can for it to now take
Mhm.
on a new stressor, which is weight loss. And if we're constantly so anxious or fearful around food, that is stress to the body. Your mind, your body is picking up on that.
That is so true. Stress is definitely a common theme. I mean, everybody seems to be, we're all stressed in our life. So if we can reduce stress in our food, that's like this one piece of the health puzzle that can be so helpful and impactful.
Yeah. So on that, then I'm hearing that it's really about the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals versus like
Goodness.
calories.
Yes. Yes. We were focused on getting enough protein and getting fiber. Most Americans don't get enough fiber in their diet. I feel like I talk about fiber every day. In fact, my kids kind of make fun of me whenever I'm making dinner and I say something about fiber. They're like, "Oh goodness, we got to make sure we have our fiber." A little mocking, but like at least I'm driving that message home to 10-year-olds and a 7-year-old. They're getting it. But it's so important because it's gut health, which is tied to our mental health, which is tied to like full body health, and then just so much more. When we feel, icky with digestion or bloated, it just leaves us sluggish and then like stresses that cycle that it finds its way into different parts of our life and just impacts everything else.
Yeah. So when you say fiber, what do you mean? Like what foods have that
Yeah.
fiber in them that we are really good to like add into our diet?
Yes. Fiber is only found in plants. So it's our fruits and our veggies, our whole grains, beans, my goodness, legumes, nuts, and seeds. So Usually people just kind of think fruits and veggies, but it really goes beyond that. And we have soluble and insoluble fiber, and they do just wonderful things. They help regulate our digestion, keep our bowel movements going and happy. And that's something people are a little uncomfortable to talk about, but as dietitians, we talk about it all the time.
You talk
It's
about it.
part of it.
Yes, it tells us so much about your health, and
Exactly.
it's really good to know for sure. So there's another thing that you have shared, which is very interesting to me, and I think a lot of dietitians have kind of leaned away from this, and a lot of doctors have not. So it creates this dynamic that is interesting. I think can be really hard for the patients and also just I
Mhm.
think as women, I'm going to narrow. I mean, I speak with a lot of women, and the pressure to be thin has been there for decades. And I think
Yeah.
there's a resurgence of it as well, especially with the GLP-1 use, whether it be, medically necessary and or not. There's kind of like this new thin culture that's coming about. But you shared that like the BMI is a no-go, like not a
The
thing.
BMI,
So
it's almost antiquated.
mm,
It's kind of the old way to look at things. So BMI, well, there is one sector that's helpful. So when I first started as a dietitian, I worked in long-term care and short-term rehab. And for the older population, BMI is helpful because we actually want to have a little weight on us because what research shows us is when people are older and frail, it just leads to less desirable health outcomes. So that in that setting, I use it all the time. In my private practice, I use it 0% of the time. Unless someone brings it up to me, and it's typically because their doctor said, or, if I do have a few women who are like, well, I'd really like my BMI to get within the normal range. Well, BMI is just based on numbers. We need to look at other things, especially like for someone who's an athlete, they probably don't fall within that normal range if they are super muscular or have a different sort of build. And so that is where let's look at health in a different way. Let's also look at like comorbidities and other health factors instead of just this number equation. And and when we talk to clients, like, well, also, how do you feel? How do you feel in your body? And what do you think is a good weight for you? And I think a lot of women, we can tune into this weight is one that feels good to me. And maybe that doesn't match the normal on a BMI, but that's something that you feel good in your body about.
yeah, there's so many other factors that we look at, like even labs, right? To look at metabolic health. Like you can be thin and really unhealthy, and you could be
Absolutely.
slightly outside of a normal BMI range and be so healthy. So there's so much more that we assess than just one, the number on the scale, and two, the BMI.
That's exactly it. Like, let's look at all these other things instead of just that number and sort of, I think for doctors, obviously it's a quick way to assess something, but look down a little bit further. And I think that's the beauty of being a dietitian. We have a little bit, usually longer sessions with clients, and we can dive into those labs and look at the metabolic health in a little bit of a different way. And a lot of times that can be just so refreshing for people.
Yeah. When you're thinking about that, and this is kind of part of the Talkin' Shit podcast, is really creating a new narrative around health, particularly for women, but I know some men also tune in. What
Yeah.
what would you want that new narrative of health to be for women?
Oh my God. Oh, I love this question. The new narrative of health. Well, I really, when I talk to it, I think it has to be the full picture of health. So we're looking at, obviously weight is going to be part of it, but it's not just weight and it's not just BMI. It's looking at those labs. It's looking at what other things are part of your health history. How is your sleep? How are your energy levels? Like this is the full picture of our health. What is stress like for you? Instead of just this little slice, which is what a BMI is, let's look at everything that's going on. And especially for women. I work with a lot of women who are, and I turned 40 this year, so like 40 and beyond, this perimenopause phase of life. Okay, like all these different changes that are happening, we have to talk about it. So I really think looking at the full picture, and we didn't even really mention mental health, but that's part of it too, like a full 360 picture of health instead of one little snippet that doesn't tell you anything about the person. It's just a number.
Yeah. I love that, like the whole idea of like the realms of well-being really have called to me
Yes.
my own personal journey. But usually when I share it as you have with other people, they're like, oh, I really like that. Like it makes more sense because it looks at us as a whole person versus just like, well, what are you eating? Right? Like, yes, that is
Mhm.
very important. And I truly believe that is foundational. So many people change their health and their lives through food. And there are so many other things that go into, you, the individual, feeling your best.
Yeah, if we're not sleeping well, the next day, if we get poor sleep, we are hungrier and less satisfied, which obviously bleeds into how we're eating and then how we're feeling. And it's the cycle that can continue. So if we just like dismiss that or don't even talk about it, that could be just something underlying that we're not even addressing.
Oh yeah, I've had one, actually a few clients in particular, they were not sleeping. They were like 4 hours a night and four
Oh
to
my
five
goodness.
hours a night. And the one goal that we worked on was getting them the 7 to 9 hours a night, and they lost weight simply from getting rest.
Amazing.
Which
That's
again is
amazing.
like this is kind of like a new thing in this realm.
Yeah,
Like, okay, but it's so funny. Like some people would be like, "Why are you asking me these questions?" Like because if you're coming into a
for
dietitian,
sure.
it's like, aren't you supposed to be asking me questions about
Isn't
like,
this just about food?
yeah. So it sounds like you are also expanding that conversation. And yes, I want to know about your food, and I also want to know about these other things that impact it.
Yeah, that's so after I do a food recall, then I'm like, okay, now we're going to talk about these other things because I want the full picture of your health. And I'm pretty sure that's what I say every time. And so tell me about sleep. And then that leads into tell me about your energy levels throughout the day. And it's then you really get a sense of the person and what their life is like because everybody is different. And it can be just so telling of, and it really relates to stress too. So telling of what their day to day is like. And then we figure out how we can help them.
Okay. So this sounds like lovely, right? Like it's like, okay, yes, I'm like as an individual, I'm like, we're seeing people for like their whole like
Their
life,
whole
right?
self. Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, and that feels like a lot of things to work on. Like, so where do you usually start with someone if they're like, okay, wait a second, I'm already overwhelmed, I'm already super busy, I'm already stressed out. Like, if you're
Yeah.
giving me one more thing to do, like it ain't gonna happen. So like how do you
It
usually
feels like too much.
navigate
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's strictly trying to avoid that overwhelm is always like goal of session number one because and a lot of times people are waiting for this laundry list of things and like no, we're going to focus on usually the first focus is getting enough protein and adding fiber. 99.99% of people aren't getting enough fiber. So we're looking at protein, especially related to weight loss. And that 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, that's the standard for Americans is just too low. So just getting people to just sort of be a little bit more aware and cognizant of what is protein, how much are we getting, and then fiber. Those are the first steps. And trying not to add too much, but how can we get a little movement in? And those are the kind of the first three things. And whether that's all in the first session or they sort of trickle in the first few, those are the initial focus,
So if,
unless there's other things happening in the background.
yeah, if we're not doing the point eight, what do you usually recommend?
Totally depends. So like perimenopause women, at least 1.2. I mean, going up from there, I've got some breastfeeding mamas, so we're at like 1.7. And then my power lifter is really at least 2.0.
Mm.
What do you use for your guidelines?
Oh yeah, my minimum is at least one. It really depends on where the person's coming in. So if I can get them minimum 20 grams of protein per meal and then snack
Yes.
and work up from there. Because a lot of women will say, like, I just feel like I'm I'm just eating all the time and I'm
Eating.
so tired of protein. So it's like baby steps, but yes, I totally agree that point 0.8 is really minimal, especially if we're looking to have activity as part of the equation, which most time we do. And we want to really encourage that, even from a longevity perspective, but also like a metabolic health perspective. It's so necessary. And I love that you're talking about fiber. Like, I feel like protein had its heyday. Like, everything was about protein.
Yes.
And I feel like now fiber probably for 2026 is going to be a thing, definitely for fiber.
I'm
But
so psyched.
what do you recommend on that for grams per day?
For women trying to get that 25 grams at
Mhm.
least, and a lot of times it means adding a piece of fruit to your breakfast. It means for a lot of people, like dinner is our most well-balanced meal. There's some sort of veggie in there, usually some protein component and carbohydrate. So that's like, okay, well, let's add to our lunch. Let's add to our breakfast. My whole thing is let's add instead of subtract as much as we can.
Love that.
Yeah. What do you
What?
use for fiber?
Uh, yeah,
What are you?
usually 25 to 30 grams. Like, but
Okay.
depending on where they're starting to, because
Yes.
adding, right? Like, so just as a heads up, if you're, tuning in, like, if you haven't been having fiber in your diet, don't probably instantly go to 25 grams a day. It's going to cause your stomach to probably hurt a little bit. So
Have
gradually,
a little GI issue. Yeah.
yeah, add some water to that, make sure, and then, gradually step your way into that. Yeah. So at least the 25, which can even be a little difficult, I will say.
It can. Yeah. We just have to be mindful of these things. Have you heard of the fiber maxing trend that became, I think it was like on TikTok, and I'm
No,
not even
tell me
on
about it.
TikTok. Okay. So I just filmed a video. It'll be for coming out in a couple weeks, which was like the best and worst diet trends of 2025. And I said fiber maxing was one of the best. Now, certainly you could take it to extreme, but it was literally fiber maxing was just get 25 grams of fiber a day. And I was like, this is amazing. Let's make this a trend.
Yes.
And
Okay.
so then all these people on TikTok were like, here's how I'm getting my 25 to 30 grams of fiber. I was like, fiber is having its day and I am here for it. And my husband and kids laugh because they're like, all you talk about is fiber, mom.
I mean, it's so good. You can see so many changes from being able to hit that number. So definitely want to do that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what would you say? I was going to ask the question of like, what do you think that like women that are unsuccessful in this arena? But I'm going to flip this and I'm going to really focus
Okay.
on what do the most successful women do most days of the week in this arena?
Yeah. The ones who are the most successful are the ones who are the most consistent. And so, it doesn't mean being perfect. It means building that consistency and thinking about it as like, this is just the way I live, just the way I eat, just the way I get movement, instead of like, well, I'm going to do this 6-month program and then I can go back to my old ways. It's consistency is, and I now prioritize my protein and fiber. I, use my walking pad when I'm on a Zoom during the day, whatever ways that you can build these healthy habits, weave them into your real life and be consistent. So that's, 80% of the time we can follow our goals. Those are the ones who are successful.
So true. And that's such a great way to think about even establishing goals, right? Like I usually say like, okay, can you do this for 1 year? I mean, because the reality is that we have to take care of our health the rest of our life. It's not a 6-week plan or a 6-month plan. It's literally this is
Yes.
you taking care of you for the rest of your life. So that could be like another 40 years. And when we think
Yes.
about it in that way, like it changes the intensity of the goal because what we're really looking for is that consistency of the goal.
Anyone who comes to me or, they find out you're a dietitian, they're like, what do you think of whatever diet? What do you think of keto? What do you think of intermittent fasting? And my question back is always, is this the way you want to eat for the rest of your life? And if the answer is no, then why the heck would you do it in the first place?
I love that. Thank you so much for giving me a response because I'm always like, well, like I feel like I need like just get more information, but I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, right. We don't want to just come off and be like, well, no, I don't think you should do that. But so it gets them to think like, do I really want to do, and there's all kinds of wild diets out there. And if the answer is no, then no, we're going to just do something that's going to weave into your life and going to be sustainable and just become, there's this idea of becoming the identity that you want to be. So if you, for example, I have another good client example. I was working with a woman and she was training for a triathlon and really struggling with fueling herself and like low energy. And finally, I said, "You have got to treat this. You are an athlete." And she's over 40 woman, and she just couldn't accept that because of who she was before, that she could possibly be an athlete. And so then I was like, everything in your head, I am an athlete and I'm fueling my body for this race. And so if we can become that identity, whether that's a runner or whether that's someone who just eats healthy, and sometimes we have to trick ourselves or just remind ourselves, but becoming that identity is so important.
Oh my God, that could get me on a soapbox in and of itself. Because Amy, like that identity work is so crucial for like long-term success, particularly if you're trying to lose weight and keep it off. You have to see
Yes.
yourself as that next level person, the person that does
Yes.
these things versus the things that you used to do. Or I see that a lot, like when people come in, is like, oh, well, my mom had diabetes, my dad had
Mm.
diabetes. It runs in my family. And I always, yes, I understand there's a genetic component to it, but it's actually much smaller than what we know already. Like our environment and our behaviors contribute so much more than the genetic piece.
Yes. Yeah. The identity is interesting. And that's one, I mean, just like you said, that's something that we just have to work on consistently to really tell ourselves, like, okay, I am, my triathlon woman. Like, you are an athlete, even though you really maybe don't think you are. But so then it's like, okay, look at all the things that you've done. Look at how much exercise you're getting. And then to bring this full circle, once she started fueling and we worked on those like post-workout refuels, getting enough protein and carbohydrates. Carbs are not the enemy. That's another one of my big soapboxes I could get on. She felt so much better. And she was like, oh my gosh, like my workouts are better, everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always wonder how we got to this point in the sense, like we know the nutrition science, and then
Mhm.
it seems like diet culture just takes a hold of us and distracts from like what we ultimately need to do to like fuel and nourish our body to be successful.
Yeah, yeah, so true. There's so much. And anymore, there's so much on social media and it can really like make us feel bad. You see a before and after, but you don't see the in between. And that's the work. That's the becoming the identity. That's the consistency. And we're just I want that. I want to go from point A to point Z in no time. And we have to put in the work. We have to put in the consistency and really focus on who we want to be long term.
Yeah. Okay. So we are in mid-January, and by this time, a lot of people may be questioning their goals. I'll
Their
just say
goals.
questioning their goals. But this is a time of year where most people who have established like new goals for the new year start really kind of feeling like maybe they're losing the motivation, they're losing the willpower, they might be, distracted with real life things. What would you say to that person that is feeling that way so that they can continue to move forward with their goals?
Yeah. The mid to end of January is a tricky time. Like the shiny newness wears off and it's like, oh, I have to really commit and do this. And it's hard with our lives. We have work commitments, we've got kids and schedules and spouses and social media coming at us all at the same time. So to work through that, I mean, first of all, find a dietitian like Jana or like myself to help you because a lot of what we do, we have the nutrition expertise, but also we're really experts in the just coaching you through this, and we want to see you succeed long term. But it's setting yourself up for success. If we think about how we can be consistent, it's these little things like, okay, you want to work out, and you want to get up at 5:30 and work out, it sounds silly, but set your workout clothes out on your dresser, on your bathroom counter, so that you don't have to think about it. We're removing any sort of barriers to our success. And on the nutrition side, 90% of eating well comes down to planning and prepping. If we don't have a plan and we have nothing prepped, then we're much more likely to grab something, order Uber Eats, whatever it is. So if we can put a plan together, it doesn't mean we have to cook some brand new recipe every single night, but have a rotation of things readily available to set ourselves up for success.
Yeah. I love that because it's not the extreme. Usually if we're waning from our goals, it was probably too extreme. And so we can kind of pull it back without quitting, right? Like not going from one extreme to the other. Like what would be a good middle ground? Like what do we need to shift at this time based on learning what worked or what didn't work, that curiosity, like, and versus saying, nope, I just quit. Like, I'm not going to do this. Just,
Forget it.
I failed one more time, right? No, like, tell me more. Like, I want to know, like, what did you learn? What did you not like? What did you like? Like, we can adjust this so that we're not abandoning ship, come
Yes.
January.
So many times, like, I think this is everyone. We're like, okay, I have this goal, and we come out of the gate and we are on this sprint, and we just can't keep that sprint up. Maybe we're like, I am going to work out 6 days a week, and I'm going to spend 3 hours meal prepping on Sunday. And then by mid-January, it's like, oh, that just takes up so much of my time and energy and not realistic. So then we circle back and go, okay, well, that was really awesome and ambitious, but maybe let's get 3 days a week in. And my favorite meal prep is an hour or less anymore. And to me, it's just like, feels like a slog and takes up too much of your time. So pull it back. Maybe you're just making a vinaigrette to go over your salad, or maybe you're just hard boiling some eggs. You've got that protein, whatever it is that's simple, some energy bites, anything that you can do to set yourself up for success in the future.
Yeah. And you have a lot of like meal planning, meal prepping, tips and tricks and all the things. So if that's something that's really resonating with someone, like definitely go check out Amy's information. Again, we'll link it below. But Amy, thank you so much for being here and giving
Yes.
more context to what it really looks like. One, to meet with a dietitian, but also the goal of what health truly looks like. I think it's so helpful for individuals to hear and also know that like, oh yeah, I can do things different.
Yeah. Yeah. This was so fun. I love to talk with people who have similar philosophies and who are just like, you're just passionate about helping people. And this was great.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll link all the information in the show notes below. This has been Talkin' Shit. If you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up or leave a review on the Apple Podcast app. If you want more episodes, click that subscribe button. And if you want to learn more, visit healthwins.org. Talkin' Shit is produced and hosted by me, Jana. This production is also made possible by the Community Media Access Collaborative. Learn more at cmac.tv. See you next time.